Hello, welcome to the channel. Today we will learn about the shocking developments that are set to unfold on October 23rd, as Holly Jonas and Ari Horton prepare their revenge scheme against Sophia Choi, whose manipulative actions have created a dangerous ripple effect throughout Salem University that continues to escalate with devastating consequences for everyone involved. The seeds of vengeance. Holly Jonas and Ari Horton find themselves consumed by a burning rage that has been building since the horrifying incident in their dorm room. The two young women are absolutely livid at Sophia Choi, and rightfully so, considering the magnitude of her malicious actions. Sophia deliberately drugged Holly's drink with a substance that rendered her completely unconscious, leaving her vulnerable and unable to respond to the danger that would soon engulf their living space. The situation escalated beyond anyone's worst nightmare when Holly, in her drugged stupor, accidentally knocked over lit candles that had been burning in their room, which immediately sparked a raging fire that threatened not just Holly's life, but potentially the entire dormitory building. The flames spread rapidly through the papers in the trash can, creating a terrifying scenario where Holly remained passed out, completely unaware of the inferno growing around her. Now, both Holly and Ari are being forced to stand before the university's disciplinary committee to defend themselves against accusations that stem directly from Sophia's cruel scheme. The injustice of the situation weighs heavily on both young women, who must now explain their actions and defend their reputations when none of this chaos was actually their fault. The frustration and anger they feel is completely justified, especially since Sophia orchestrated this entire nightmare scenario deliberately targeting Holly. However, there is one major complication that threatens to derail any chance they have of clearing their names. Sophia herself may not be available to testify and reveal the truth about what really happened that fateful night. If Sophia continues to insist that she is traumatized and unable to speak about the incident, Holly and Ari will be left without the one witness who could exonerate them completely. This infuriating predicament has pushed both girls to their breaking point, and they are now determined to take matters into their own hands by planning revenge against the person who has caused them so much pain and suffering. Sophia's mysterious condition. Meanwhile, Sophia Choi finds herself in an entirely different kind of predicament, one that has left everyone around her confused and searching for answers about what has happened to the troubled young woman. According to the latest developments, Sophia is now suffering from amnesia, claiming she cannot remember the events surrounding the dorm room fire or her role in creating the dangerous situation. Some sources even describe her condition as catatonic, suggesting that Sophia has retreated so deeply into herself that she is barely responsive to the world around her. This sudden medical crisis has thrown a wrench into everyone's plans, particularly those of Holly and Ari, who need Sophia to tell the truth about what she did. Amy Choi, Sophia's mother, is desperately seeking answers about what has happened to her daughter and why she has ended up in this troubling state. As any concerned parent would, Amy wants to understand the medical explanation for Sophia's condition, but she also needs someone to blame for the circumstances that led to this point. The complexity of the situation makes it difficult to pinpoint exactly where things went wrong and who bears responsibility for Sophia's current mental state. Sarah Horton Kyriakis, stepping into her role as a medical professional, attempts to provide Amy with an explanation of what is happening to Sophia from a clinical perspective. However, Sarah finds herself in an extremely uncomfortable position because she must carefully explain Sophia's medical condition without inadvertently admitting that one of the people partially responsible for this entire mess is actually Amy herself. The delicate balance Sarah must maintain while discussing Sophia's condition creates tremendous tension, as she tries to be both honest and diplomatic in a situation that demands both qualities. The medical community in Salem is left puzzling over whether Sophia's amnesia is genuine or if it represents a psychological defense mechanism her mind has employed to protect her from facing the consequences of her actions. Some medical professionals wonder if Sophia experienced some form of trauma that caused her to black out the memory of her malicious actions against Holly. There are even theories circulating that suggest Sophia may have blocked out certain memories deliberately, burying traumatic events so deeply in her subconscious that she genuinely cannot access them anymore. Whatever the true cause of her condition, Sophia's amnesia has effectively placed her beyond the reach of those who desperately need her testimony to set the record straight. Tate's conflicted heart. Adding another layer of complexity to this already convoluted situation is Tate Black, who finds himself caught between his desire for justice and the social pressure to show compassion towards Sophia despite everything she has done. Tate approaches his father Brady Black to express his frustration about how Sophia's sudden trauma is complicating his life in ways he never anticipated. The young man opens up to Brady about the internal conflict he is experiencing, admitting that he just wants to openly hate Sophia for all the terrible things she has done to him and to Holly. Tate's feelings are entirely understandable given the circumstances. Sophia lied about him being the father of her child, manipulated him emotionally for months, and then orchestrated a dangerous scheme that could have killed the girl he truly cares about. However, now that Sophia is presenting as a traumatized victim suffering from amnesia, Tate finds himself trapped in an impossible social situation where he is expected to be sensitive and pretend that he cares about her well-being. The pressure to show compassion towards someone who deliberately hurt him and the people he loves creates a tremendous amount of resentment and frustration for Tate. He confides in Brady that maintaining this facade of concern is exhausting and feels fundamentally dishonest, especially when what he really wants is for Sophia to face real consequences for her actions. Brady listens to his son's complaints with understanding, recognizing the difficult position Tate has been placed in by circumstances beyond his control. The father-son conversation reveals the emotional toll that Sophia's schemes have taken on Tate, who has been jerked around by her manipulation for far too long. Tate's relationship with Holly has suffered because of Sophia's interference, and now even his ability to express his legitimate anger is being suppressed by social expectations. The young man feels trapped in a situation where the villain of the story has somehow managed to position herself as a victim, making it nearly impossible for him to seek the justice and closure he desperately needs. Brady recognizes his son's pain and frustration, understanding that sometimes the right thing to do is simply allow someone to vent their honest feelings without judgment. This conversation between father and son highlights the emotional complexity of the situation, where doing what is socially expected conflicts directly with what feels emotionally honest and true. The disciplinary hearing looms. As the date for the disciplinary committee hearing approaches, both Holly and Ari feel the weight of potential consequences bearing down on them. The university takes these matters extremely seriously, and both young women understand that they could face severe penalties including suspension or even expulsion if they cannot adequately defend themselves against the accusations. The problem they face is that the evidence appears to suggest they were negligent or reckless, when in reality they were victims of a calculated attack. Without Sophia's testimony confirming that she drugged Holly and created the conditions that led to the fire, Holly and Ari are left trying to prove something that seems almost impossible to demonstrate. The disciplinary process itself is designed to be fair and impartial, but it relies heavily on evidence and testimony that can establish what actually happened. In this case, the physical evidence, the knocked-over candles, the fire damage, and Holly's unconscious state, all seem to point toward carelessness on the part of the dorm residents. What the evidence does not show is the invisible hand of Sophia Choi manipulating events from behind the scenes to create maximum damage. Holly and Ari know the truth about what happened, but proving it without Sophia's cooperation presents an almost insurmountable challenge. The frustration of being punished for something that was not their fault eats away at both young women, fueling their determination to find some way to make Sophia pay for what she has done. The stakes of this hearing extend far beyond simple academic consequences. Both Holly and Ari's futures could be permanently affected by the committee's decision. A mark on their academic records could impact their ability to pursue certain careers, obtain scholarships, or even transfer to other institutions if they choose to leave Salem University. The injustice of having their futures threatened because of someone else's malicious actions creates an almost unbearable pressure that both young women struggle to manage. They find themselves caught in a nightmare scenario where the truth is on their side, but they lack the means to prove it to the people who hold their academic futures in their hands. The question of Sophia's whereabouts. Complicating matters even further is the troubling question of where exactly Sophia has gone and whether she will be available to testify at the hearing even if she wanted to. According to some reports, Sophia has actually gone missing, prompting Brady Black and Steve Johnson to launch a search operation to find the troubled young woman. The mystery of Sophia's disappearance adds yet another layer of intrigue to an already complicated situation. Some speculate that Melinda Trask, concerned about Sophia's mental state and the dangerous escalation of her behavior, may have had her committed to Bayview, Salem psychiatric facility. This theory gains credibility when one considers that Melinda seemed genuinely concerned about how far Sophia was willing to go in her vendetta against Holly, even questioning whether Sophia actually wanted Holly to die in the fire. If Sophia has indeed been taken to Bayview or has fled Salem entirely, it would explain why she is unavailable to testify at the disciplinary hearing. It would also provide Holly and Ari with a convenient excuse for why they cannot produce the one witness who could clear their names completely. However, it does nothing to actually resolve the injustice of their situation or provide them with the vindication they deserve. The possibility that Sophia might escape all consequences for her actions by virtue of her mental health crisis creates additional anger and resentment among those she has harmed. There is a sense that once again, Sophia is managing to evade accountability through circumstances that seem almost too convenient to be entirely coincidental. The path forward. As October 23 unfolds in Salem, the collision course between justice and mercy, truth and amnesia, anger and compassion promises to create dramatic moments that will reverberate throughout the community for weeks to come. Holly and Ari must navigate the treacherous waters of the disciplinary process while simultaneously plotting their revenge against the person who has caused them so much pain. Sophia remains trapped in her own mind, whether genuinely suffering from trauma-induced amnesia or hiding behind a convenient psychological condition. Amy Choi struggles to understand what has happened to her daughter while Sarah carefully manages the flow of information to protect everyone involved. And Tate continues wrestling with the impossible expectation that he should show compassion towards someone who has systematically destroyed his happiness and peace of mind. The question that remains unanswered is whether Holly and Ari will succeed in their plans for revenge, or whether Sophia's apparent trauma will shield her from the consequences she so richly deserves. The disciplinary committee will make decisions that could alter the course of multiple young lives, potentially punishing the innocent while the guilty party remains beyond their reach. The emotional toll on everyone involved continues to mount, creating tension and conflict that threatens to tear apart the fragile social fabric of Salem University. As viewers, we can only watch as this complex web of lies, trauma, justice, and revenge continues to unfold, knowing that the resolution, whatever form it ultimately takes, will leave permanent scars on everyone involved in this tragic situation.